the walls are deep gnome, mate. Well, the chiseling is remarkably intricate.
I didn't live here, though. Steps are too big. Inhabitants were drow-sized at least.
The skeletons,
Quiet. I'm thinking. Probably inhabited by whoever those skeletons
Here
were.
in the south, as you said, residents urged to stay inside, lock their doors, because this is one of the active scenes here in Seirot. But we are hearing that, as I did hear earlier, very, very heavy exchange of gunfire between Israeli soldiers and the Hamas terrorists. We now are hearing reports that 5 terrorists were killed in this area. Those gunshots I heard were less than 500 meters away in a field nearby. And so we are hearing those reports now that 5 of those terrorists were killed. We're not hearing any reports of active hostage situation at this time either. But all of this as Israeli soldiers continue to sweep the area, cleanse the streets. They're going door to door. They're looking through gardens, looking through these fields, blocking off streets, just like you can see behind me here. This is one of the many different roadblocks that are taking place all throughout these southern areas as Israeli forces are really trying to get a hold on the situation and see how many more terrorists continue to be in the area. So it's very, very dangerous for everyone to be out here. And while we are seeing all of this activity on the ground, we're also hearing plenty of activity overhead as well, as the IDF says they continue to use airstrikes over the Gaza Strip. They say since the beginning of the war, it's about 48 hours ago now, targeting 1,200 targets in the Gaza Strip. So throughout these southern cities, it still smells like smoke. I see smoke in the distance. My eyes are all burning. So we continue.
Glad you offed him. Ain't no one divides the clan and lives to tell the tale.
Not far in the distance, and so all of these southern communities are feeling the effects of that as well. Just the remnants of all of these explosions and strikes lasting here in the air. But for the main part, all of these residents here in these southern cities are really just asked, as you said, stay inside because this is an active situation. As the Israeli defense forces continue to sweep the area and try and get a handle on exactly how many terrorists remain infiltrating into Israeli territory.
If I was sensible, I'd lock it in a chest. But if I were clever, I'd put chests everywhere and hide it somewhere else entirely.
Not necessarily taking public transport to their workplaces. What must that be like there as you move along the streets in Sderot and southern Israel, that the entire city has almost come to a standstill? We're talking about a city that is often, unfortunately, used to a barrage of rockets coming over, but this seems to be taking on a whole different ballgame.
It feels like war, Fatia. That's exactly what it feels like. Drive through the streets.
I love you so much.
As you said, Tel Aviv all the way south here.
Ooh, it's a mimic.
Completely empty. You'll see
like in the movie. Like in the movie. Yeah. I got tricked.
Busted out windows. It's a war scene as you're going through here, and so it's very, very scary driving around on these roads. It's an eerie feeling because that's what you're seeing, and then, as I said, looking through the sky as well, it's just dark and cloudy outside, and you can smell the remnants of all of these explosions happening in the distance. So, as you said, most residents, businesses, everything is shut down. No one is on the streets right now, as they should not be. Even in Tel Aviv, most places are still shut down because this is still an ongoing situation. And as we saw last night, randomly, it seems there was another barrage of rockets targeting central Israel. So although there is a lot of activity here in the south, we continue to see that activity in the center of Israel as well. And so residents all throughout the country right now really need to be on high alert and listening to all of those alerts from the Home Front Command and taking the necessary precautions.
Absolutely, as do our journalists on the ground. Nicole Zedek, be safe out there in Sderot in southern Israel. We'll touch base with you a little later. Still with me in studio is retired Colonel Dr. Jacques Neria and Guy Azriel. I'm senior producer and correspondent. I want to touch base on what Nicole just pointed out after, if I may, the last few moments that we had about really where the global community stands right now. At the moment, yes, it does seem that international news appears to be, I would say, slightly less biased towards Israel, but it seems like the minute that retaliatory strike ends up in Gaza, the tables are going to turn very quickly.
Well, you just said it right. The window we have to act in Gaza is very, very short. And if we don't do that, the pictures that will transpire from Gaza outside to the outside world will just overcome the other pictures of horror that have been published and spread all over the world. Right now, I have all the time, I'm receiving messages of sympathy and solidarity from friends in France, in Africa, in the United States, all over Europe. And the effect of the horror pictures published by Hamas has done it well, unfortunately for Israel. And for the first time since 1967, we feel that the international opinion is siding with Israel because the animality and the bestial conduct of those terrorists has really upset the whole world. Now, as I said, when pictures will come about, because Israel right now has adopted a new tactic in Gaza. There's no more knocking on the roof and telling the people just to go out.
I want to just point out that we are looking at live images of the Gaza skyline as you're explaining this.
So no more warning for the inhabitants. The warning has been given well ahead of time. You just have to leave. And being that taking into consideration this fact, that means that the casualties will be enormous in Gaza. And this is one detail that we have to remember. But this is the price that we have to pay. And unfortunately, we are right now experiencing the effect of more than 1,000 terrorists.
The battle.
That has invaded
see what you've got.
over 11 military bases and 20 localities, and they are fighting. The death toll is much more bigger than we hear right now. There are localities and communities that have been emptied totally, and this is, we are in a state of war, and we have to react and accordingly. And it will take time because there are two waves.
That's all.
One wave of terrorists that have already acted, and dormant ones that are waking up right now and that we are fighting.
I have to say something because we need to remember this is not a watershed moment in the history of the conflict with Gaza. This is a watershed moment in the history of the state of Israel, equal maybe only to that of the Yom Kippur War. And with all due respect to the support or not support of the international community, Israel is not going to be the same. Israeli civilians will not accept anything other than changing the equation that we have been used to for the past 15 years of occupying with Hamas. The Israeli public will not take anything less than dismantling Hamas, whatever the price may be. The pogrom that we've experienced is maybe similar to sites that we saw in the Holocaust. The brutality is Nazi-like. Slaughtering women and children. I'm reading more and more stories of survivors hiding in the roofs while their neighbors are being slaughtered, screaming, shouting. Those who managed to lock themselves in the shelters were burned alive. They burned and torched those houses. We're talking about hundreds of Israeli families slaughtered at the hands of this murderous Hamas group. And we heard what a senior Hamas official said just yesterday. Mahmoud Azahar, the entire planet will be under our law. There will be no more Jews or Christian traitors. For anyone in the world that seems to think this is about territory, this is about occupation, we've heard all these statements before. This is not what we're dealing with. And this is the same threat as we're facing from Hezbollah. And if Israel is not acting now in a way that changes the equation, perhaps taking over Gaza, whatever that may take, the Israeli Republic will not accept anything less than that.
This is a failure of two concepts, two ideologies. One ideology, political one, trying to contain Hamas and giving Hamas is interested by economy, by money, by Qatari dollars and so on, and just using this element to make a difference between the Palestinian Authority and Hamas, and weakening as much as possible the Palestinian Authority in order to. We could afford that, feeling and believing that we could coexist with Hamas. Hamas just used us, used our money, the money, used all the policy that, and turned into a monster. and cost us more than 4 billion shekels, pacing the Gaza has proven to be ineffective. And it was just blown up in several places, several breaches, and this is and we could not imagine that Hamas, we had in our mind a small militia, was so sophisticated that it copied into the minute details the plan, the master plan that Hezbollah has done on the northern border and adopted it. We just looked at 2 months ago about on a drill that Hezbollah had in South Lebanon, and we laughed. We saw that motorcycles, they were attacking the wall with motorcycles. Said, "Oh, this is what they have." Indeed, this is what they did. They blew up in several places the fence, and they entered Israel first with the motorcycles. And this is what they did. I mean, we have to just adopt a different policy and towards Hamas and towards our enemy. We cannot be complacent. This is not that we have to stop being arrogant, and we have to look at the reality and treat it as such. We have paid a heavy price in '73, and I thought that this was the biggest lesson we had. I was a young lieutenant at the time, and I thought that this should not be repeated. And now it's repeated. It's even worse. It's even worse.
You mentioned Hezbollah. We know that Hezbollah is one of the biggest, if not the biggest, proxy by the Iran regime. And there's a lot of, obviously, conspiracy theories and theories out there at the moment of just a few weeks ago, the United States has a prisoner exchange deal with Iran. Five prisoners plus the release of $6 billion. And there is a fortune of concern that that money was wired to Iran, which was thus wired either by means of financial money, like the actual money, or by weapons into Hamas, into the Gaza Strip. Iran is now saying they have absolutely no part in this. Is this something to be believed?
Well, I think that the master plan comes from Tehran. The master plan of what's happening today. There are some information that Kahani, the head of the Revolutionary Guards, is right now in Lebanon. And he's teleguiding all these efforts that are going on in the northern part of Israel and the southern part, and in the West Bank also. Now, I believe that Hezbollah has lost ahead of time, because we were surprised in Gaza. We were supposed to be surprised on most fronts, because this is exactly the plan that Hezbollah had. Right now, all the localities bordering the border with Lebanon have been evacuated. There's no more a chance for Hezbollah to take hostages like Hamas did in Gaza. And I think that we are much more prepared right now, and certainly the presence of the Americans is a definite additive that we have to take into account, and Iran has to consider that very carefully before even waging anything against Israel in the northern part of our border.
Let's touch a little bit more on perhaps lighter spirits now. Let's cross to our senior correspondent, Owen Altman, who's standing by for us in Tel Aviv at a donation center. Owen, what is the latest that you have for us? It's still early in the morning, but what is happening on the ground?
That's right, Bacha. Earlier in the morning, but as you're about to see, everyone here getting started. Volunteers coming, as you're seeing, packing up all of what has been donated. Both items for civilians from the south who have had to evacuate their homes. You just saw a box of shoes. Onward to things needed by reservist soldiers who have reported for duty, who might not have some of the equipment they need, might need blankets, might need hygiene materials. A lot of people have to leave their homes really, really quickly and show up for duty. By the way, Bacha, this is an operations center and a donation drive run by the protest movement against the judicial overhaul that has been such a part of the Israeli story over the course of the last 9 months. But of course, switching on a dime and moving from protesting against the government Saturday night in, Saturday night out, to what you see here, using the infrastructure and the WhatsApp groups and the Facebook groups and the social media and all of the networks that have been built up for the protest, and instead deploying them for what you see around you, and bringing all of these volunteers here, many of them younger, to be here and to put these boxes together and then to be able to get them to the people in need. This is at the convention center in Tel Aviv, so people can come out here and donate the items that are needed. And again, here they are packed and then stored and then delivered or picked up by those who are in need. Again, whether they be civilians in the south who had to flee their homes, sometimes after experiencing extreme trauma, often with children. Again, and on to reserve soldiers who may not have all of the equipment that they need given by the government. So, Bob, you can see around us this effort, again, taking in dozens, if not hundreds of people, all of them volunteers, of course. And we should say this is just one of many, of dozens, if not hundreds, of civilian initiatives up and down Israel, of people who've been mobilized to give of their money and of their time, whatever they can, to give to those in need. In some cases, maybe goods the government should have provided, but in many cases not, as you can see here, goods that seem directed more towards civilians, again, and all that they have experienced. Bacha.
Our senior correspondent Owen Altman there at a donation drive in Tel Aviv. Will be getting more updates from you later on in the broadcast. I'd like to thank very much our Guy Azriel and also Dr. Jacques Neria, and just recap that the Israeli military says that aircraft continue to pound the Gaza Strip. That objective clear. To devastate the capabilities of the Hamas terror group, among the targets hit in recent hours, several command posts, building housing Hamas operatives, buildings housing weapons depots, and also operational assets used by Hamas that were stored in mosques as well as schools. The retaliatory strikes coming as over 700 Israelis at this time have been confirmed murdered by the Hamas's onslaught, with that number
Something's off.
Expected to rise.
Your shadow.
The Israeli Health Ministry
Around
this morning
me.
saying around
Inside me.
2,400 Israelis are wounded, with over 300 of them in serious condition. We'll be bringing you more updates here on breaking news editions throughout the day on the I24 News Desk. But if anything you missed, make sure to check out our website at i24news.tv and, of course, our social media pages. And remember, the best thing that you can do at the moment, besides staying safe, is sharing the correct information on social media and making sure the world is aware of what...
His name is White Boy Carl.
At Indigo Health, we make getting the care you need easy, so you can focus on the things that matter most.
Palestinians have been fighting for peace. They have waged nonviolent protest. We are not paying attention to the thousands of Gandhis. And then, in moments like this, we are whittling down the situation to Hamas, when there is an entire context of 75 years of dispossession, 56 years of occupation, 16 years...
to take.
You're making me sweat.
Is that blood? No, never mind.
This is no fun at all.
Ain't good looking.
Hot foot. Place is trapped.
Keep your blade close. Salutations.
Wanna dance? Take a big swig. Cure you.
Time for a soft touch.
Did they suffer?
It was over